The Fed15 podcast is presented by Serving Those Who Serve, a financial planning practice serving federal government employees and retirees all over the country. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not intended to be taken as financial advice. All listeners should consult their personal advisors before taking any action. The opinions expressed by our hosts are their own and do not reflect the views, policies, or position of either Raymond James or Serving Those Who Serve. Securities are offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services are offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. Serving Those Who Serve is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services, Inc. Welcome, everybody, to this week's episode of the Fed15 podcast presented by Serving Those Who Serve. Each week, we'll discuss the latest news and info that feds need to know in 15 minutes or less. So whether you are a seasoned federal employee or just starting out in your career, Fed15 has got you covered. Grab your coffee, kick back, and we will tell you what you need to know but might have missed during the week. We are your hosts. I'm Katelyn Murray. I'm joined by Dan Sipe. We're both in black this week.
Indeed.
Yeah. All of this shutdown, lack of progress has us turning into a goth podcast. So we're both in black.
Well, and here's the thing, Katelyn, and I realize we exist a little bit outside of space-time here because we record this in actual time and then it goes up a bit later. So it is my sincere hope that by the time our beloved feds watch this, they think I'm a doddering old fool because what's he talking about? It's been over for a week. So that is my sincere hope. But I want to say something very, very important. I've had my filibusters, my rants about shutting down the government is not a lever of the legislative process. But I think this is equally important. When a shutdown happens, and sadly, I don't think we're done with them happening. I do have faith that somewhere there will be a person who says enough and discovers there are people that will follow on that. However, should they happen, should anything happen that has a negative impact on our community of feds, we will be working. Okay, we will be generating relevant content for you. We will do the best to make sure we have the educational materials that you have to make the best decisions. Or if you're just looking for something to kill a little bit of time because this nonsense has just driven you to the edge, then you can watch us. So we're here for you. This shouldn't be happening. On behalf of just one little segment of Team Taxpayer, I apologize, and we will be here with you to get through it. So,
actually, one more note that I want to add to that, sure. Dan, we've got an article on shutdown survival that is actually from April of this year when we were going through this the last time.
Yep.
Unfortunately, pretty recent. So we'll be sharing that in the episode description of this episode.
Absolutely.
And we are working on another article to do with, shutdown survival tips, things that you need to be thinking about. Because unfortunately, despite our opinion, this appears to be, a recurring issue that our feds are having to face. So if we know it's part of the landscape, prepare for it. So that said, we do have some interesting articles today that we're going to touch on. I'm going to talk about in a little bit the G Fund and the TSP. And I love talking about the TSP. But we're specifically going to dig into G Fund, and we're going to talk about her. We're going to talk about if she's really as safe as she seems to be. So hang in for that. Before we get there, Dan's going to talk with us about Social Security, which had a big birthday this year, I hear.
It did indeed. And Katelyn, I love talking about the ever shrinking number of things that are older than. Okay. And folks, don't let the gray hair and beard fool you. Social Security is actually older than me. It's 90. Happy birthday, Social Security. So established 90 years ago to protect older Americans from poverty after a lifetime of work. So today, a couple of stats for us. There are 72 million beneficiaries and over get ready for this, 1.6 trillion with a T in payments annually. You probably know already that it provides survivor benefits and retirement benefits, but don't forget there's also disability benefits in there. And for federal employees, the folks who are under the FERS system, this is a key component of that tripod or three-legged table, three-legged stool, which if you're followers of us, you know it actually should be a four-legged table, four-legged stool with the fourth leg being strategy. But yes, still a very important component. So the new commissioner has a vision, and there's nothing in my mind to object to in these priorities. I think they're pretty doggone good. Number one, improved customer service, a stronger technology, greater efficiency. So we're early in the progress. The first 100 days, there are technology upgrades and streamlined processes for faster navigation and additional adaptation for relevance for feds and military workers for a smoother coordination of Social Security with pensions, TSP, and other retirement benefits. The president issued a proclamation for the 90th anniversary and reaffirmed a commitment to protect Social Security for future generations. And absolutely, yes, do that, please. So for federal employees, reassurance that Social Security remains a reliable foundation alongside FERS and TSP. So looking ahead for the next 90 years, I won't be here to cover the 180th.
Hey, you never know. We might have a Dan bot.
Oh, there we go. That's true.
I think we might be running danbot.exe at that time.
So
and he's going to cover it.
Okay, that's a little bit terrifying. And yeah, you got to realize I'm old enough. I came through the max headroom generation.
Yeah.
I just see me glitching. So over the next 90 years, Social Security is meant to remain central in that retirement planning and long-term financial stability. Not meant to be your only retirement plan, though. Meant to have other things going along with it. And so success depends on careful coordination with FERS, pension, TSP, and other sources of retirement income. Where can someone find planning support for this, Katelyn? Do you have any ideas?
I have heard about this outfit called Serving Those Who Serve.
I hear good things about them.
Yeah, I think that they might be able to help. No, but in all seriousness, guys, we can absolutely help you figure out your Social Security strategy. Social Security is we have folks come to us with a lot of questions. Social Security is one that is pretty consistent, and a lot of people don't realize that there is a lot of strategy that goes into it. You are not supposed to take Social Security at age 62 just because that's when the federal supplement stops.
Yep.
Just because your first supplement stops does not mean you have to take Social Security. Does not mean that it makes sense for you to take Social Security. It could, but you need to look at, projections. You need to get an overall sense of how Social Security is going to integrate with your FERS pension and create, that retirement funding that you need. And oftentimes it makes sense to push that back some in order to get the maximum benefit
Sure.
that you can.
Well, our genius director of tax and investment strategy, Tom Lee, coined the phrase that Social Security is not a no-brainer. It is absolutely a brainer. And then I added on to that. And if you get it wrong, you discover too far down the road that it's a migrainer.
Nice.
See what I did there?
Love it.
So we're applause to Social Security, but you need to have a strategy for the best way to go about doing it. And if you are looking for some help with that, absolutely, we are here for that very purpose. So, Katelyn, I understand you have some very interesting data about the G Fund and how safe actually is, and is safe even necessarily always a good thing. Crazy talk. Tell me about it.
Oh, yeah. So this actually reminds me of a quote that feels like it's painted over somebody's fireplace that just popped into my head. A ship in the harbor is safe, but that's not what ships were built for. And quaint though that may be, I'm sure that it's cross-stitched on a pillow somewhere. It does kind of make me think about this article. So Matt Kramer from our team, he's a great financial advisor here with us at Serving Those Who Serve, who has now started writing for us. So he's actually got several articles up on the website. You can find him under our blog tab. And in that drop down, you can find Matt Kramer. But he compiled some data that is really interesting for this new piece. So G-Fund and the TSP is kind of our cash/cash-like asset, right? You're looking at treasury securities, okay? It is widely considered to be the safe fund because it will never show you on your statement a return in red, meaning you are never going to see a negative return in that fund.
Sure.
Which is something rare in investing, right? But when we look at G-Fund versus inflation, there's several different periods here that we'll examine. So between 1987 and 2024, right? If we look at that period, the G-Fund return is 4.2%. Inflation is 2.7%. So your real return, which is your return, your stated return minus inflation, is 1.5%. So that looks pretty good, right? We're beating inflation, right? If that's the goal of the fund is to beat inflation, then we're doing okay, all right? If we're making 1.5% on our retirement portfolio, I'm not sure that retirement portfolio is going to cover the gap that we have on our FERS pension when it comes to COLA. Because remember, your inflation adjustments on your FERS, though it may be adjusted for inflation, it is the consumer price index, which is the measure of inflation, minus 1% in most high inflation environments. So maybe we're squeaking by just okay with that 1.5% return, maybe over that long-term 1987 to 2024 return.
Not buying it. Nope, not.
If we look at the past 10 years, okay, 2015 to 2024, the picture is very, very different. The G-Fund return for that period is 2.2%. Inflation over that same period is 2.7%. Okay? So our real return, if you're following along, is a negative 0.5%. And unfortunately, this is in our third kind of period of time that we're looking at, the last 5 years from 2020 to 2024. The G-Fund return is 1.9% over that period, and inflation over that same period, 3.7%. So the real return there is negative 1.8%. So we're seeing a trend here, right? When we look at these shorter term intervals that are more recent, the G-Fund is actually lagging inflation, okay? And this has been true even on the year-to-date scale for 2025. G-Fund return right now, or as of the time this article was written, was 2.5%. Inflation was 2.7%. It's currently 2.9%. Real return there is negative 0.1%. And the data source on that is tsp.gov itself and bls.gov to pull that CPI information. Those returns, I should tell you, are nominal, and really important point here, they are pre-tax. A lot of times when folks are evaluating G-Fund, they get caught up in comparing G-Fund to inflation. And we see some issues there. But let me tell you, there are even bigger issues when we start looking at G-Fund compared to inflation and the taxes that you have to pay when you pull that money out of your pre-tax retirement account. Because stay with me on this. If you're in the 22% tax bracket federally, or the 24% tax bracket, not even counting what you owe on your state taxes, because that's a whole nother matter and it varies by state. Your G-Fund return is 100% of the time going to lag inflation and taxes.
Sure.
Right? So be mindful of how all of these different pieces fit together. It matters that it's in a pre-tax account. G-Fund in a Roth versus G-Fund in a pre-tax balance is different. Now, a lot of people probably are listening to this and saying, Katelyn, I hear you, but I'm not chasing returns. I just want to play it safe. So let's talk about playing it safe.
Yeah.
Okay. Here's the pros, right? Because we always try to be fair when we look at things. G-Fund is going to give you principal protection, and it's backed by the full faith and credit of the U.S. government because the underlying security there are mostly treasury securities. Okay. However, when we are relying solely on G-Fund, your return's going to trail inflation, especially more recently, 5-year, 10-year, right? It's going to reduce your purchasing power because while the cost of everything is rising by the CPI, you may not be keeping pace in your G fund. So while you're not seeing any negative returns and you don't have that gut punch when you get your statement, your money will buy you less stuff because that stuff got more expensive at a faster rate than your money grew, right?
And that gut punch tends to come when you're like 85.
Right.
Because you're running out.
We don't realize that until you're in your 80s or your 90s and you're running out of money.
Yep.
If you're lucky, sometimes you feel it earlier and then it's an even worse situation, right? You've got limited growth opportunity in the TSP because there's that relationship between risk and return. We're not taking much risk, so we're not getting much return. We're not leveraging equity markets in that way. And then lastly, this is what we were talking about earlier, your withdrawals from your traditional TSP balance are going to be taxed as ordinary income, possibly at even higher rates in retirement, depending on what your retirement income looks like. So that's something to consider as well. Okay. So the kind of takeaway here is don't let G Fund be your whole plan. Okay. Every time we see market volatility, Dan and I see the massive exodus of funds from C, S, and I into G Fund. And every time we are like, how do we reach more feds? Because that is not the way to be doing things, right? Ask yourselves these questions, okay? Is G Fund strategic in your portfolio, or is it just a default setting?
Mm-hmm.
Can your TSP allocation keep up with inflation and your tax burden?
Yep.
And then lastly, do you have a coordinated plan across FERS, TSP, Social Security? And does that plan involve Roth conversions for managing your tax burden now and in the future?
Sure.
Because if we don't have those pieces in place, and I'm not saying a Roth conversion is for everybody. That's not the case. It varies by situation. But if you have not considered whether one makes sense for you, needs to be part of your long-term planning, needs to be vetted, okay? Because we are in historically low tax rates right now. I'm not going to get off on a Roth conversion tangent, but we have historically low tax rates right now. Nobody ever feels like they're paying low taxes. Let me tell you, on a historical basis, right now we are. So how do we use that to benefit future you, okay? If you don't know where to turn to for that kind of expertise, for that kind of advice, for that kind of guidance, Serving Those Who Serve can give you guidance on TSP fund selection, diversification, strategies that account for inflation and taxes, Roth conversion suitability, maximizing the integration of all of your federal benefits together, Social Security and TSP. And by the way, FERS, FEHB, FEGLI, all of that stuff. So I highly, highly, highly encourage you, if this isn't something that you've looked at, if G Fund has kind of been your safe spot, reach out to a professional, get some guidance. Not everybody needs a financial planner. Everybody should have a plan.
100%.
So, yep. So that's that on that. Check out that article on the website. It is a really interesting read. I think, numbers don't lie. And Matt's put together some really compelling evidence there.
Indeed. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. But, and I promise this, we will be back next week to bring you the latest updates you need to know to make informed decisions about your career and financial well-being as a Fed.
Absolutely. And to make sure that you don't miss that episode, make sure you're subscribed. If you're listening on Spotify, you can subscribe there. If you're listening on YouTube, you can subscribe there. And if you are on our website, just click on the name of the video and it'll take you to YouTube and you can subscribe there. I would recommend subscribing. I mean, if you have Spotify and YouTube, subscribe across multiple platforms. One, because it's going to give you reminders of when we drop new episodes every single week. And two, it also helps us boost the signal. It helps us reach more feds. And let me tell you, there has never been a time where that was more important. There's a lot of radio silence from OPM, from other governmental organizations, and we sort of stand in that gap. We can educate on benefits. We can take a lot more time with you than OPM certainly can now, really than they ever could, because this is what we've dedicated ourselves to. So subscribe, share it with your friends and colleagues, spread the word. We just want to help more feds.
Indeed. And for more information on the topics we covered today, and even more, be sure to check out our blog at blog.stwserve.com and subscribe to our newsletter, The Weekly Serving, and then we'll ship the latest to your inbox every single week. You don't need to go looking for it.
For sure. And I think we got a couple webinars coming up, Dan.
Do we?
We always got a couple webinars
Yes,
coming
we do.
up. So later this month, we will be having our TSP planning webinar, really 2 heavy hitter webinars. TSP planning will be on October 21st. That's going to be from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we also have our FERS planning session. So all about the FERS pension, how it works, how the eligibility works, the different types of FERS retirement, that sort of thing. That'll be on October 22nd. And that's also from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And I am hosting both of those. So your choice this week is Katelyn or Katelyn.
All Katelyn all the time.
Yeah. So
You're like
I
Bobby
will see you
Flay on
there.
Food Network.
Exactly like him. And I make just as good of a burger.
I believe you.
Truly. Yeah. So please do join us for one of those sessions. Both of them are great for beginners. Both of them are great intro sessions. It's going to teach you a lot. If you do prefer a one-on-one approach, if you kind of want that planner relationship, feel free to reach out to our team directly for a financial planning consultation at meetings@stwserve.com. And we'd be happy to see how we can help.
Absolutely. So everyone, thank you once again for listening to Fed15. Hopefully for the last time, me being in black. I'm Dan Sight.
And I'm Katelyn Murray.
And we will see you next week.
See you there.